What if animals had video game stats? The age-old question that nobody probably has asked except for me. But I'm really interested in this sort of stuff because I've always played Pokemon throughout my childhood, and with the recent upcoming of Palworld as well, it's got me thinking a lot more about stats with the creatures and things like that. And I thought, why hasn't anyone actually done that for our animals in the world? So what I'm going to be doing is going to be looking at 3 different animals. I'm going to look at an aerial animal, a terrestrial animal, and also an aquatic animal, and kind of giving them their own stats and special abilities, and kind of using humans as a base level. So we're going to be looking at 6 different stats. We're going to be looking at the health points, the HP, the attack, the defense, the stealth, the speed, and also the IQ stats. And then we're also going to have a special ability for each animal that we look at. Before I get into it, I just want to say, if you guys could subscribe if you're watching this, that would help me a lot. I'm trying to do a video every week, and I just really enjoy educating stuff with animals. And also, I want to do one of these videos every so often as well. They're just fun. So if you guys have any suggestions for an animal I should do, put it down in the comments. I will hopefully get to it. And also, if you disagree with any of the stats I've given, feel free to let me know in the comments as well. But like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and enjoy the video. So here are the stats that I've given humans. So we've got 80 health, and that's because we have an average age of 72 to 80 years old. I've given us attack and defense of 20 because without any form of weapon or anything like that, we are pretty much just podgy bits of flesh that don't have many natural self-defense mechanisms or attack mechanisms. Our stealth I've put at 65 because when we were cavemen and cavewomen, a lot of our hunting involved a lot of ambushing and being sneaky. And then when it comes to speed, we're not the fastest in the world. I put us at a respectable 40, and that's just because we aren't that fast, but we're not that slow compared to a lot of animals in the world, like say a slug or a snail. But this is where we excel. Is the next stat is our IQ. So we are the smartest species and smartest animal in the world, and that's one of the reasons we have survived so long and we're doing so well just in general. Our special ability is we actually have 2. We have endurance running. We are actually able to run further and longer than any animal in the world, and again that's how a lot of our hunting went back in caveman times. But then also our IQ, which I put as giving us a plus 60 in attack and defense, because we've got things like shields, armor, bulletproof vests for the defensive side. Then we've also got weapons such as spears, swords, bow and arrows, and guns, and things like that for our attack. So each animal is going to have a similar thing to this, but this is our base level. The first animal that we have got here is the aquatic species. So this is going to be my favorite animal personally, the axolotl. So kicking off with a very low stat, their HP, it's actually going to be about 15. And the reason for this is because they only actually live 5 to 6 years in the wild, but up to 12 years in captivity. But because they live such a short period of time in the wild, that is why I've put it at a low number. Their attack stat is at another, again, very low 20, and this is because they do actually have teeth. They actually have 80 individual teeth in their mouth, but they are only to grab onto things. They're not for eating or chewing or anything like that. They're only to grab onto the animal while it kind of like swallows it, whether it be other amphibians, fish, or anything small enough that it can eat. The defenses are at a higher 45 out of 100, and this is because it has different types of defense systems within its body. It's got some chemical defenses where it actually secretes a very distasteful and smelly substance from its skin. So anything that tries to eat it or pick it up and will smell it, they will drop it and put it down immediately, where they can make their quick escape. This is where the next defense mechanism comes in. These guys are what I like to call swift swimmers, or the double S. And they are very, very quick at swimming and can kind of get out of areas in a pinch if they need to when they're in the water. And their final defense mechanism, it's actually a thing called a stress-induced reaction. So when they get put under stress, they will actually secrete some mucus out of their body on their skin, which makes them actually more slippery and slimy and kind of allow them to kind of like wriggle out of areas and through tighter gaps than they normally would, which allows them to get out of certain situations. But within this as well, their heart rate will increase, which allows more oxygen to get pumped around the body to oxygenate certain muscles to allow for its escape. These guys' stealth stat is at a very high 70, and this is because their natural colours are things like browns, blacks, and yellows. And in the wild, where they are found in Lake Xochimilco in Mexico, that is really, really good camouflage in that kind of murkier, dark coloured waters. Onto their speed, again, very low 15, and that's because they can only actually swim up to 10 miles per hour or 15 kilometers per hour. And this is only at times when they need to get away from something, and that is their top speed. Then onto their IQ stat. These guys, even though they look like they are quite clueless little animals, with their cute little faces and derpy expressions, they are actually quite intelligent. And it's been proven, as they are in the pet industry, we can do a bit more research on them easily. They can actually identify different individuals from their owner to just another random person, and identify when it is actually feeding time rather than any other time of the day. And also out in the wild, they can kind of see what different shapes are, different predators and different prey items, and actually identify what is what. So they're actually much smarter than their dopey little faces will actually admit. These guys actually probably have the most overpowered or OP special ability, and this is the ability of regeneration. So axolotls are very, very good at regenerating different body parts, whether it be their limbs, their tails, internal organs, or even their spinal cord. So they lose a limb, they're like, don't worry, I'll grow it back soon. So this gives them a plus pretty much infinite amount in their HP stat, as long as the damage done is not fatal, because if it's fatal, they can't regenerate from it. And these guys actually have to be very careful with this sort of thing, because they have very soft skin, and they can actually rip open their skin, and that can't be fixed very easily. But anything when it comes to damage to organs, or even the brain or spinal cord, they can regenerate it, which is pretty cool. And the way they can do this is because of a thing that they do to their cells, as they are in a constant juvenile state, even when they get sexually mature. So what happens is that they will actually de-differentiate certain cells, so basically make them to sort of a stem cell sort of thing, to allow them to kind of act as another cell. So it's like, this cell wants to be in leg cell, there you go. This one wants to be brain cell, there you go. This one wants to be a spinal cord cell, here you go. So they can actually regenerate things like that, which is really, really cool. For animal number 2, we are taken to the skies, and we have the peregrine falcon. So starting off again with the HP, it is at a fairly low 20, because they actually only live about 15 years out in the wild. This is still higher than the axolotl, even when the axolotl's in captivity, so it's going to be higher than them, but I think the rest of their stats actually make up for the lack in their HP. So their attack stat is at a fairly high 60, and this is because the way they hunt is actually terrifying. So they actually attack purely in the air mainly, and will attack other smaller birds. And what they will do is a thing called a stoop, which is a funny word. So they will stoop and reach speeds of 242 miles per hour, which is insanely fast. It's too fast, I feel like. And this is the fastest animal in the world, so I bet you can guess what their speed stat's going to be, but I'm just going to get there eventually. And what they'll do is they'll just crash into the prey item and catch it in midair. And you can actually see some like dust and some like the kind of shockwave sort of thing come off the bird in the video here, which is terrifying. These guys' defense stat is at 35. It's still quite low because their main way of defending themselves is just making themselves look intimidating and trying to scare off things. So it'll just kind of like go, hey, what are you doing here? But it won't actually do anything. It'll just kind of like try to make itself look scary and walk toward them, try and scare them off. And that's their number one way of defending themselves. They are very defensive over their nests and things like that, but in general, they're not very good at it. Their stealth stat is at a high 60, and they have a very stealth-like flight, which is used to kind of stay away from their prey items, which allows them to kind of move around without being seen. Now onto the speed stat. I bet you can't guess what it is, as I mentioned earlier. It's gonna be 100. It has to be 100, as it's the fastest animal in the world, whether it be aquatic, terrestrial, or aerial. It is the fastest animal, full stop. So they're at 100 speed, and that's because they do this thing called a stoop, where they reach 242 miles per hour or 390 kilometers per hour, so insanely fast. So now onto their IQ. I've got these guys at a respectable 60 for their IQ as well. They are quite smart birds. They're very intelligent, can kind of decide what prey item they want to go for, can understand what bird is what. But also we have been able to train them to target a specific bird, so it actually knows and can identify different bird species, which is pretty cool. So again, pretty smart bird. And then their special ability is that speed boost, which I've already mentioned, which is a stoop. So what I put for these guys, it actually doubles their speed. I don't know if that's statistically accurate, but for my stats, it'll double their speed, so they get a 200 speed overall when they are stooping. Okay, last but not least, we are going to the land, so we're going to our terrestrial animal, and I've chosen the southern white rhino. Because these guys are just so cool. I like to think of them as just living organic tanks. And we'll go into some of their stats now. So their HP stat, I've put at a respectable 50. And this is because their average lifespan in the wild and also in captivity, they're the same, is about 40 to 45 years old. So being around half of what a human is, I think it's respectable. That is just over that. But it's amazing that they can live that long anyway. Their attack stat, I've put it at, again, a respectable 40. It is just under kind of the median, the middle mark. This is because they don't really attack anything. They are just a bit kind of defensive, and also they're herbivores, so they don't need to attack anything for food. They just eat the grass. But they can use their big old horn that they have to attack a lot of animal if they are kind of coming too close or being too aggressive towards the rhino, or even if a mother rhino has a child or a little baby rhino, so they will actually defend them with their life. And their horns can get up to 166 centimeters long, really, really long horns, and they are big old blocks of keratin, which is what our fingernails and hair is made out of, just in a much, much denser and tightly packed form. Oh, also, they can charge, so they can just run at you and catch you off guard, because something 2.5 tons can apparently reach 45 kilometers per hour. The next stat is where rhinos shine. It is their defense stat. So their defense stat is 95, so it's really, really high, and this is because only one thing actually kills them in the world, and that is us, people, poachers, whatever you want to call it, say. We're the only things that actually kill rhinos, so lions don't kill them, hyena don't kill them, African painted dogs don't kill them. We're the only thing that actually can kill rhinos, so that's why there's 5 taken off, because we still kill them, but that's because of our advancements in technology. But they also have things like their 2 to 3 inch thick skin, which is just natural armor plating, and rhinos are extremely rough skinned in places, so it actually acts as armor. And they also have their big old horn that helps with that defense as well. They've also got incredible hearing, so their ears are able to kind of swivel and pick up different noises from different directions, and allows them to kind of sense and hear whenever danger's near, and can kind of detect what different animals are based on the sound. So that also boosts their defense way up. Now onto their stealth. If you could imagine, this is going to be extremely low, because can you imagine trying to hide a rhino behind some long grass? It's just not going to work, especially in their just environment in general, where it's quite bland, not much there, not really anything that they can blend into, and also they're 2.5 ton natural tanks. How are you going to hide a 2.5 ton natural tank? You're not. So it's got 5 stealth. It's a very low one. So onto their speed, which is actually at a stat of 65. And this is because they can actually reach 45 kilometers per hour or 30 miles per hour. And the reason I put their speed stat so high is because they are also so heavy. Being able to move 2.5 tons that quickly is insane. It's insane. Now onto their IQ, which is the final stat before the special ability stuff. I have their IQ stat at 70, and this is because they can identify different individuals, whether that be different animals or people, and actually show... So they can actually show cooperative behaviors, which is really useful in zoos, because we can actually kind of teach rhinos how to put their feet up, so we can check all underneath their feet, and also kind of like open their mouths, check their teeth, that sort of stuff. And they can actually be trained like a dog, so they have a very high IQ that they're able to do this. So for their special ability, I have got them at a plus 20 speed boost. And this is because they can actually run backwards nearly as fast as they can run forwards. For some reason. So if 2.5 tons moving really quickly towards you wasn't enough, even if you kind of sidestep it, they will still, they can stop and reverse just as fast, which is terrifying again. So on the screen here, you can see all 3 of the stat totals for each animal with their special ability. If you think I've got any of these wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments. Or if you want to, suggest any other animals that I should do with this, I'm going to hopefully do this. I enjoy doing this sort of stuff. It's quite fun to apply stats to these animals. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Hopefully trying to do a new video every week. But thanks very much for watching.